In the NBA, you have to pretend that Bronny's an NBA player because otherwise you'll upset the king. Bronny, in a terrible draft, I defended as the 55th pick.
There's going to be a microscopic eye, even more intensified, on Bronny James because of his dad.
In the NBA, you have to pretend Bronny James is an NBA player, because if you don't, you upset the king. Barkley said it on national television. The whole panel went quiet before the laughter came, because everyone knew it was not a joke. That was the most honest thing anyone in mainstream sports media had said about this situation in months. And the fact that he had to wrap it in humor just to say it, that tells you everything about the unspoken politics surrounding Bronny James right now.
You have to pretend that Bronny's an NBA player because otherwise you'll upset the king. And remember, he is a 6'2" guard that's a non-point guard. I've never seen that existing in the current NBA. And go back 20 years. He is 1 for 16 in the NBA from the floor, 0 for 7 on threes. He's not an NBA player. He was not a great high school player. He was a good high school player. He wasn't a good college player. He was a college player. And he's not an NBA player. And he may be a great kid. I'm sure he is. LeBron's a nice guy. I've met him.
I just looked it up. G-League, top scorers, points per game. I went through 50 and there's no Bronny James in there. He had 1 40-point game. Other games were 1. So now you do the math, and it's not going to be in the top 50. I don't even know who is this. Bryce McGowan, Elijah Harkles, Trey Alexander, DJ Davidson. Never heard of these kids. But they're dropping 30 a night in G League. Why is Bronny sitting on the bench?
1 for 16 from the floor, 0 for 7 from 3. Those are not the numbers of a rough night. Those are what shows up when the level of competition has gone past where a player currently is. And here is the part that makes it worse. Bryce McGowan, Elijah Hark, Trey Alexander, DJ Davidson. The analyst went through 50 G League scorers and Bronny James was not in that list. Players nobody has ever heard of are dropping 30 points a night in the G League, fighting for their careers on minimum contracts without a famous last name or a guaranteed spot or a father who changes how every organizational decision gets made. That is not just a stat line. That is a real question about what this roster spot is actually doing for a team that says it is trying to win right now. And once fans started asking that question, the conversation shifted completely, because in a league built entirely on merit and competition, the scoreboard does not care about your last name or who your father is. And right now the scoreboard and the stat sheet and the rotation are not telling a good story for Bronny James or for anyone trying to defend this roster spot on pure basketball terms.
Bronny James, he's 7 for 28 in 4 preseason games from the field. He's 2 for 13, I believe, from three-point range. He's got 8 assists and 8 turnovers. He's moving into year 2. This guy is not an NBA player.
It's not about the money at that point. My point months ago was that because of who you are, one of the top 2 players in the history of basketball, in my estimation, there's an immense amount of pressure that comes with that for his son. And when he talked like that and what have you, anything that goes awry as it pertains to his son, there's going to be a microscopic eye, even more intensified, on Bronny James.
7 for 28 in preseason. Moving into year 2, Stephen A. said it directly. There is a microscopic eye on Bronny James that no other young player in this league has to deal with, because of his father, because of what it means for the whole story if this goes wrong publicly. That pressure is real. In some ways, it is genuinely unfair to a kid who did not choose to be born into the most scrutinized family in basketball history. But the pressure does not change the standard. The NBA standard is simple. Can you help this team win? And the rotation decisions the Lakers keep making are giving a very consistent answer to that question. When Luka was out, when Reeves was unavailable, when the rotation was thin and the team needed someone, they went to Nick Smith Jr., a player Charlotte had already cut before he finished his rookie deal. Think about what that means. Not a star, not an established piece. A player another franchise already decided they did not need. And the Lakers still trusted him before Bronny when it actually mattered. That was communicated without a press release. In the language that matters most in professional basketball, minutes, and the absence of them when the game was still in question, Hit subscribe right now for more breakdowns that go past the surface. Because here is the reality the Lakers cannot escape. Every time they bypass Bronny for another player, the message gets louder. And in the NBA, messages communicated through rotation decisions tend to stick. Coaches are pragmatic. They play the guys they trust. And trust is earned through performance. Not through last names. Not through storylines. Not through how much the league benefits from a father-son narrative.
How do you feel about the way Bronny James played?
So, it's unfair that he is there, is what I'm going to say. I think it's clear, like, the reason why he's there is because LeBron, has kind of made sure he's there. He's just not an NBA player. He looks, in my mind, like almost like worse than he was last year.
The pattern is not difficult to see once you understand what you are actually looking at. Bronny gets minutes when the game is already decided. When the lead is so large or the deficit so significant that the result is no longer in question. Those are not development minutes in any meaningful sense. Those are not the reps that build real NBA confidence. Those are the minutes coaches hand out to players they want to keep around without putting real trust in them in competitive situations. Professional basketball runs entirely on trust. Not on potential. Not on projections. Not on what a player might become 2 or 3 years from now. On what a coach believes that specific player can do right now when the score is close. And every possession has a real consequence. The rotation is the most honest signal in the sport. It tells you exactly where each player stands in the organization's mind without anyone having to say a word publicly. LeBron's presence creates a thick protective layer around this entire situation. Nobody wants to be the voice that destroys the father-son story in public. Nobody wants to be the analyst who goes too hard at a second-year guard, whose father is one of the greatest players alive, and is still in the same building. That protection is real, but it has a shelf life. LeBron's career has a timeline that everyone inside that organization can see clearly, even if nobody is saying it out loud. When that era ends, the protection disappears completely. At that point, Bronny gets evaluated exactly like every other player on any other roster. Same standard, same pressure, same singular question, can you help this team win? And if the results stay where they are when that moment arrives, the conversation is going to be significantly louder than anything he has dealt with so far.
It hasn't been any improvement.
Too small of a sample size to say that he got
You
worse.
still see the same kind of stuff, like the drive left and get up in the air, and then on the way down trying to throw like a lob that gets stolen. His three-point shot doesn't really look great either on the open catch and shoots.
No improvement. Same mistakes appearing the same way. Drive left, get up in the air, try to throw the lob on the way down. Turnover. The three-point shot still does not look right on open catch. And shoot opportunities that most NBA guards hit consistently. The same patterns that raised questions in year 1 are showing up in year 2 without meaningful correction. Development in the NBA requires one specific thing above everything else. Real minutes in real games where the pressure is genuine and the consequences of mistakes are immediate. Not garbage time, not extra walkthroughs. Actual competitive reps where both teams are trying to win and every decision is tested under real conditions. Without those reps, the growth curve flattens. Skills that only develop under pressure simply do not develop if the player is never actually put in that position in a game that matters. That is the uncomfortable reality around Bronny right now. The talent questions are one issue, but the trust question is the real one. The minutes are the answer. The rotation is the answer. And right now both of them are saying the same thing very clearly to anyone paying honest attention to what is actually happening inside this organization.
You know the attention you automatically are going to bring to him. So to combine that with putting him in that predicament, you're asking us not to cover the sport. That's pushing it. So when I was talking about as a father, I wasn't talking about Bronny. I was like, forget him. He's going to be all right. I believe he's going to be a good NBA player someday. I really believe in Bronny. I think he's got potential. But I was saying to LeBron, you know better because you know what we got to do. Why are you doing that? That's what I meant when I said as a father. If you have a problem, as I said, and this is why Rich Paul and I don't particularly speak much or anything like that, but I always have respect for Rich Paul. And this typifies.
As a father, I believe Bronny is going to be a good NBA player someday. I really believe in Bronny, but LeBron, you know better. Why are you doing that? Not a takedown of Bronny. A direct question aimed at the person who set all of this in motion. Because the roster spot. the contract, the pressure, the spotlight. None of it exists without the decisions LeBron made and the influence he used to make them happen. The basketball world is not asking Bronny to be his father. It is asking him to justify the spot. And until that happens, this question does not go away. So tell me, can Bronny turn this around? Drop your honest answer in the comments right now. Like and subscribe for more.